I'm gonna go on a picture real quick and get right back in. Yeah, turn around and turn back around.
Welcome once again, folks, to yet another Wheelchair Wednesday here on Wednesday, March 26th, I think. 27th, I'm sorry. March 27th here at the Wheelhouse on a beautiful Wednesday here. It is 55 degrees in the Wheelhouse because I ran out of propane. So we will be getting more of that tomorrow. Still not spring yet here. It's kind of cold in Michigan. Today, speaking of cold, we got a friend coming from us all the way from Wisconsin. As Michigans call it. Michiganders. Before we get to him, let's run the intro. Welcome to Wheelchair Wednesday. All right, y'all, let's welcome Mr. Matt Haynes to the show.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great from bombing Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, nice. Is it still cold over there?
Depends on what day and what time. We've been all over the place. We've been between 32 and 70 within a week.
Yeah, sounds about like Michigan. That's about right. It's that Midwest weather, I guess.
Yeah.
Before we get started, Mr. Haynes, let's go ahead and the first question is how it happened. So let's introduce yourself, tell people who you are, where you're from, and how it happened.
Okay, as I said, Matt Haynes. I live in Milwaukee now. The way it happened, I'm a little different than most people. I stood up too fast, got lightheaded, fainted, and when I did, I fell forward and caught my forehead on the edge of my dining room table and whiplashed my neck back. Prior to that, I had years of built-up stenosis, and I knew I was going to need the fusion surgery. I just didn't want to take off work and kept putting it off. Well, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. When I came to, I was laying on my floor in a very small pool of blood.
Oh gosh!
And couldn't move anything from my neck down. I had gone through EMT training when I was younger, so I knew what to look for. My breathing was very labored and very shallow, but I did still have diaphragm function, so I knew I didn't have to worry about suffocating. I couldn't move anything, and the pool of blood wasn't getting bigger, so I knew that it wasn't a bad cut. I wasn't going to bleed to death. At the time, my daughters were visiting their mother out of town for the weekend. So I had like 4 hours waiting for them to return home with nothing but my thoughts.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yep.
Just thinking about, 1 minute you're fine, next minute you wake up on the floor and you're just like, what in the world just happened to me?
Well, the things that helped is, as I said, I was well aware of the stenosis in my neck. So I knew what was going on. I was knowledgeable enough to know what was going on. And when I knew my daughters weren't going to find me dead, that made everything better.
Right.
And people say, oh, that must have been terrible having all that time with nothing to do but think. But actually, I think that was a great blessing because I had nothing to do but go through all the stages of grief in that period of time.
You kind of got it out of the way right there immediately.
Yeah, and so by the time the girls got home, I had already accepted the fact that I had a new normal. I didn't know what to expect, but I at least had some idea. And I've always been lucky in that I can handle difficulties with a lot of stoicism and just do what needs to be done next,
right?
Without getting a lot of negative emotional stuff going on. So that
Yeah.
was real helpful too.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people's problems when first getting into this situation is, you know, a lot of people sit and dwell on, well, I can't, and now it's different. Now I have to deal with now, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me type situation, which I get it. I mean, it's you literally your old self dies and you have to start over again. So it's like. It's part of the grief you have to go to. But for you to have to go through it, and there was nobody coming to help you, you couldn't call 911.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy, man. That's pretty. That's
And of course, kids, they called a couple of times, but they don't leave messages on answering machines. I'm just like, just talk. Let me hear your voice. Just give me some kind of stimulation.
Right.
But no, I'd hear the phone ring 3 or 4 times, and then it would just go dead. And I'm like, damn it.
Right. Let me ask you this question. So, how long ago was that, you said?
It was January 4th, 2015.
Okay, so if you could go back to that day and stop that from happening and live your life the rest of the way that you were living it, would you do that, or would you stay where you're at now?
I spent absolutely zero time on magical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way I view it. I compare my life now compared to when I came to on that floor. And I am doing so much better now than I was in that moment. And that's what I go on. I can't make it magically go away. It happened. I've got to deal with it. I have no choice. There's absolutely zero possibility of going back and living my life without the injury. So all I can do is, it's so much better than when I woke up on that floor, unable to move, unsure if I was going to live or die. So my life is great now. Would I rather it never have happened? I'm not sure. At the time, I was 50 years old, recently filed for divorce, single parent with 2 teenage daughters, in a house that was most likely going to be foreclosed upon. And having a very scary future in front of me, just because I knew my ex would make everything as difficult as possible. And this kind of gave us a reset on life, my daughters and I. Right. So in one way, no, I wouldn't want to change it. But of course, if I could have it never happen and never have any knowledge or anything afterwards, of course I would prefer that. Right. But generally I don't spend time even considering magical thought.
Yeah, you strike me as one of those guys. I mean, you accepted it shortly right after. I mean, you didn't lay around in bed for weeks after and mope about it. You were like, all right, what do we got to do next? What's next?
Yep. And then having some very good, things that helped too is my injury happened on January 4th. When they got me to the ER, the neurologist checked me out and everything, and he said, I'm not going to touch you. I'm going to come back in 4 or 5 days, let the swelling go down, and then I'll do the surgery. So for the first week, I was just a morphine recipient in the bed. I have very little memory of that first week at all because I was just in and out of it so much.
Right.
But waiting for that swelling to go down before doing the surgery, I think is what allowed me to regain so much because, he said a lot of surgeons will want to go in right away and fix it. But if that soon after the trauma, you start going in there, then the first thing it's going to do is swell from the pressure, the surgery. It's the swelling's going to actually get worse before it gets better.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, but obviously, whatever, it worked well for me.
Right.
Because I've like I said, it's been 8 years now, and every year I lose a little bit. So compared to where I was after that first summer, I've lost a lot, but I'm still so much better than I was.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting too that you mentioned that he wanted to wait to go in until the swelling went down. See, like me on mine, I think mine was kind of like necessary because I was coding and I was making myself go into a panic attack, and it was bad. Some people, I think, just don't have a choice.
Well, no, and as I said, mine was strictly stenosis. It was strictly swelling and pressure on the spinal cord. It wasn't like a traumatic car injury where you've actually breaking vertebra and have bone chips floating around and stuff. I
Right.
had none of that to worry about. It was just going in and doing the disc replacement surgery and fusing it.
Like you said, it's crazy to hear about all the different stories, because not everybody's. You might have the same injury, but it's still not the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and even talking to people with the same level of injury, and just everything on paper looks the same, but yet their physical experience can be so much different.
Right.
When that's the thing, especially being an incomplete, because everything moves from the neck down. It just doesn't move like it should, and I have feeling from the neck down. It just doesn't feel like it should. And a lot of people say, "Oh, you're lucky you got feeling from the neck down." Well, yeah, but you got to remember, I got a spinal cord injury, and I got feeling.
Right.
It's one thing to sit on a pressure wound when you can't feel it, but when you feel it, believe me, it's exponentially worse.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's interesting that you say that too, because for me it's weird. My personal thing is I'll start, if I get uncomfortable, I'll start to feel like goosebumpy, like I gotta pee or something. That's what I gotta feel when I gotta pee or something. So it's telling my body I gotta move. But like you said,
Yeah.
some people, they don't know. Like, you have to actually watch what you drink. Your body won't tell you. But it's, I don't know. Sometimes the body will tell you. I don't know. The human body is a crazy, it's a crazy thing.
Especially when you experience the nervous system from our side of it.
Right.
Since my injury, I've gained such a appreciation of the human system.
Right.
The human body, especially watching like gymnasts and stuff. It's like, oh my God, you realize how remarkable it is that you have the ability to do that.
Right. Especially when you're looking at it from a chair, like, wow.
Right. I mean, I used to run cross country, and I remember we had one path we had run down through the woods where we'd be jumping over logs and ducking under branches at the same time. And it's like, how did I do that?
Yeah.
It's just
Crazy to think about. So what about dating / married? Is that something that you did before? I mean, like, now that you're in the chair.
I was separated and got order protection from my ex in August of 2014, and my injury was in January of 2015.
Wow, just
So-
right afterwards.
I had I had two teenage daughters that I was raising, so I had no dating life before my injury.
Right.
And since the injury, I mean, I've had a couple of dates, but nothing that really went anywhere as far as relationships. But neither one of those, I don't think, had as much to do with me being in the chair and disabled as it did with them being in bad relationships in the past and not being able to open up to a man. I don't think if it was me or anyone else, I think that the people I had met had just had such a wall up emotionally that no one was getting through it,
Right.
And I wasn't looking for just an internet friend or, I don't think I could ever live with anybody because of my requirements. But I want something meaningful. I don't want, I've lived my life, so I want something that got a little more meaning to me than just a girlfriend,
You know
But
what
I
you
don't
need?
definitely-
You need a long-haired beauty caregiver lady.
Well, what I need to do is, and this will come up in some of the future questions, but I just need to get out socially more. I know there are solutions to it, and I know what they are, and I believe I'll probably meet someone this summer.
Right. Nice. What's your pet peeves about being in a chair?
I was talking to my caregiver about this morning, and I think probably my biggest one are businesses that have like a 4-inch stoop and their doors offset like 3 foot back. and you can't get into place because they won't knock down that cement and put in a little ramp.
Right.
The places that could easily become accessible and just don't bother. I live. Milwaukee's an old city. There's a lot of buildings that the foundations are 3 feet off the ground, and so there's no way you're going to get in there.
Right.
There's going to be 2 or 4 steps up, and that's understandable. That to go back and retroactively refit them, it's not feasible. But there's so many easy, simple solutions that they could make their places accessible for people.
Absolutely.
Actually, what I've thought about is I would like to get some stickers made with a guy in a wheelchair, the circle and a line through it, and say we do not support
that'd be nice. Yeah.
Found shoppers, and stick it on their window.
That would be nice, except for that would be illegal without their permission. Could you imagine the wheelchair vigilante going to jail for sticker and business?
Yeah, get a city ordinance passed to where you must let people know before they waste their time that you do not patron to wheelchair users.
Yeah.
Because I take the bus to get anywhere in the summertime, and it's so frustrating. You see someplace you want to go, you look at Street View, everything looks okay. You get on the bus for an hour and a half, get there, and you can't get in the building.
Right.
It's just crazy. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, and then it's, I understand where you're coming from, too, because you're in a power chair. And, on some of these little stoops, yeah, sure, if you're in a manual, you can just kind of pop right up on it if you got somebody to help you. But I don't give a damn if you got a caregiver or not. You ain't jumping no curb with a power chair, 450-pound power chair. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
What about something that you wish you could do now, other than the obvious, that you could do before that you can't do? What would be something you want to do now that you could do before that you can't do no more? That's hard to say.
There's a lot of it is the little things. That's the thing that really gets me, like, especially when I have to have somebody else do something that would be so easy for me to do.
Uh-huh.
And I've got to try to drive them how to do it, and they can't get it. And I can go over there, especially mechanical type stuff. I was a machinist my whole life. So if I need, a screw taken out or put in or tightened up on my chair, I'd have it done in 2 seconds, where now it takes 20 minutes to explain to somebody what I want to do, and they still don't get it right,
Oh, that's the worst. When you have it in your head exactly what you need to do, how to get it done, real quick, real simple, and you're trying to explain to somebody, and they're just doing it wrong. But at the same time, you're trying to not blow up in your head because you want to just yell and scream. Oh, man, I feel you. I feel like I deal with that at least once a week.
And just providing, being the sole breadwinner my whole life, when you suddenly, can't buy your kids stuff that they need, it makes life emotionally challenging.
Right. What do you do now, by the way? Do you do anything for work or?
No, I don't have enough hand dexterity. That's my biggest limitation. And I tend to get a lot of spasms. So anything where I need any kind of fine muscle control is pretty much out of the question.
Yeah, this has been like therapy for me, man, doing this and listening to your guys' stories. Because me being a para, it's just like listening to, just like you said with the screwdriver, you know what I mean? I can easily do a screwdriver still. Yeah. So it's on my bad days, I just think about the, guys like you, and I'm like, shut up, Rick, you ain't got it bad.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, from my point of view, it's like I can stand up and I do my, stand up and transfer as long as I've got something secure to anchor,
Right.
I can pretty much get up on my legs and move around. Until recently, I was able to walk with a walker pretty well. Still, then I look at people like you who are paras and say, oh, they've got it so nice they can, use their hands, they got all their hand function and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but then they tend to have more complete injuries, tend to have to worry about pressure sores more. Their bowel programs are usually worse than mine.
Yeah.
So no matter what our injury, how
There's
it
always
shows
pros
it.
and cons, yeah.
There's always somebody with it better and worse. So,
Yeah.
I,
Which that brings me to my next question: is your pain level? Any pain that you deal with? What's that about?
well, for the most part, it had just been the nerve pain, um, which I've watched a couple of these podcasts, and a lot of people are on Lyrica or gabapentin, and I was on gabapentin in the beginning. I got up to 3,200 milligrams a day,
Ooh,
and
shit! I thought I was high.
it still wasn't touching it.
Wow.
And then I started getting to where I call it Swiss cheese brain. I would suddenly start at not being able to find words that I knew I knew,
Oh man.
knowledge that I should have had at my fingertips wasn't there. And I started doing some research and found out that that's one of the side effects of gabapentin. Um, so I slowly started weaning myself down, 300 milligrams a week until I got down to zero. And I haven't been on it since.
Wow.
Um,
What do you do for your
so
pain now?
nerve pain, I just compartmentalize. I've never really had a lot of the visceral pain. But now that my muscles, every year my muscles get a little bit tighter. I get a little more atrophied. And recently it's gotten to where my shoulder blades are pretty much locked.
Right.
So I'm getting a lot of shoulder pain now and a lot of hand pain. But I don't want opiates, so pretty much now cannabis and compartmentalize.
Right. I hear that.
Out of thought, out of mind.
I feel you. I'm hoping. I mean, eventually, I'm sure one of these days I'll have to be there with you. I mean, right now I'm on 2,400 milligrams a day, so as it is, I pay attention too. Like I'm trying to figure out. Okay, I have stuff to do every day. I got a list of stuff to do, and it's sometimes it is hard to think about it. And but once you get it, you get it. And I tell everybody, I'm like, if I start losing stuff, like let me know, because
Right. And my question would be, how's your neuropathy?
Well, my back is the worst, right at the point of injury. It's like, and neuropathy is what? Like the nerve pain?
The nerve pain that gabapentin and Lyrica are supposed to help with.
Yeah, so I can, like, without it, like right now it's getting ready to be my, like, nighttime. Because I normally do like 8 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then 6 or 7 o'clock. So it's starting to come up on that 6, 7 o'clock, and I can start feeling it. Like my pain will start coming back. So right at the point of injury where I have all my hardware, that stuff like hurts every day, never goes away. If I don't drink a lot of water, if I'm dehydrated, it'll hurt way worse. Night of drinking, whatever, next day, oh yeah, it's over. You might as well just lay in bed all day and try to drink as much fluids as possible. So, my back, it always hurts. It never goes away. But like the gabapentin, like I said, it does help. Without the gabapentin, it would be like, I'm sure like eventually we're going to have some kind of like pill, shortage or something, and I'm going to have to go through it. But, to that day, I'm just kind of like praying like, oh, let me get off it easy.
Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't help me at all. When on the drop it, I didn't notice the difference in the nerve pain.
Right.
So I figure if it wasn't that, and then initially that's what made me decide to get off it, because I was still suffering nerve pain every day, all day. So it's like, why take the pills and still have the pain?
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying. I still do kind of have pain. It doesn't take it all away. I mean, the closest thing I've ever had to taking my pain completely away was. It was a narcotic. It wasn't Norco. It was, I can't think. I think it started with a V. But I just remember asking for it. What's that?
Baclofen?
No, I take baclofen. Baclofen's for my, I take 10 milligrams, for my spasms and stuff. But
I have a
Valium, that's what it was. Valium.
Oh, yeah. I tried Xanax, just the smallest dosage, cut in 4 pieces, and it still relaxed me so much I couldn't transfer anymore.
Wow.
I couldn't self-transfer. And that's like you're talking about a night of drinking. That's another problem with being an incomplete. I can't get drunk or I won't be able to transfer and go to the restroom like I need to. So I've got to limit myself to 3 drinks. I can't do any more than that. one
Do you ever
very
just
strong.
say screw it and sit in bed? And because do you cath yourself or do you get up to go to the bathroom?
I get up to go. Yeah.
Oh man, see that kind of in a way, cat, because I don't feel it. Obviously, like I'm chest down, T3, T4. So when I go, I don't feel it, and I kind of look at it as somebody was like, "Oh, well, you're cheating. You don't got to do anything. You just got to sit there." Like, what the heck? I don't know. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
My next question for you is, what was the thing that helped you the most after your injury?
Um, just my attitude, I think. I've I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, and a lot of things that are almost kind of paralyzed having the spinal cord injury. Just I when I was very young, I had spent a short period of time in prison, so that got me used to being okay with myself and my own company, um, and just been in difficult relationships, and so I've dealt with a lot of adversity through my life. So, like I said, I was in a good mental space when I came to on that floor.
Right.
Use those 4 hours to my best advantage, and then set my course from there. It was so obvious to even the nurses when I was initially in rehab. When I got to the point where I could go down to the dining hall and eat, it was mostly, when you're not in a specialized unit, when you're in a rehab unit in the hospital, it's mostly hip replacements and strokes and elderly patients like that. And every now and then they'll get a spinal cord injury, you know. And they always used to send me by the difficult patients who were ready to give up, and they would just send me by them and let me be me.
And you'd cheer them up.
And it would, just my example, you know.
Nice.
And then if I needed to, I would contribute, and counsel them along some. But usually it didn't even take that. It just like them seeing me try so hard to get back every little bitty thing I could, that
Right.
and even the attitude is the biggest thing people can have going for them to get through something like this, I think.
I agree. I'm gonna give you a round of applause for that one, sir, because I think you deserve it. You can't hear it, but right now there's a room full of people clapping for it. You'll hear it when you go watch it again backwards.
Yeah.
All right. So now this brings us to the hobbies question. Before, what did you do afterwards? Did you keep doing it, or did you find something new?
Before I played harmonica.
Nice. Fellow musician.
Yeah. We'd only lived here in Milwaukee a couple of years, and I hadn't really found anybody out here to jam with yet. The community I lived in is kind of a resort community, and there was one bar down by the lake that got some live music now and then, and I had just gotten to where people were knowing me enough that I could pretty much walk down and sit in with the band that was playing there.
Nice.
But not enough that people act that I could find my own gig yet, But
Right.
And again, that's kind of like the being single. A big hindrance to my playing harmonica was my ex. And so now, after I got separated, I thought, okay, now I can have a good, healthy relationship. I can pursue my harmonica playing, and then I get injured and pretty much seems to wipe out both.
Oh man.
But I've got, at first I got a neck thing, for my harmonica, and that just didn't work. Every time I try holding them, I'd drop them. But I kept at it, and I got to where I could still play. I put a rubber band around them to give me a little grip on them so I don't drop them now. There's, as far as technique goes, there's a lot I can't do anymore, but you learn to adjust, So it's still something I enjoy doing. And I found a bar that's got a blues band on a Sunday afternoon. So this next summer, my Sundays will be spent down there. And that's when I say I'll probably meet someone because,
Nice.
I get down there playing my harmonica, I'm going to meet someone.
Heck yeah, guys. Go check Matt out down there at the Blues Bar.
It makes it easier to overlook the disability when there's something else to look at that's positive.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, hell, man, you're let alone your positive attitude just draws
Yeah.
me to you. You know what I mean? Like it makes me pay attention more to you. It draws you right in. Talking about the harmonica and how hard it is for you to hold it. Have you ever thought about maybe coming up with something and like seeing if you can make a device or something to help you and other players?
And as I said, I came up with the device. I put a rubber band around it. And so now, because before there's just being metal, it would slip right on my grip. Now, as long as I got a thumb and a finger on it, it's not going anywhere because I can grip.
Oh.
My hands are constantly gripped. So, but what I can't do now, though, is, you see a harmonica player cup the harmonica and get the wah-wah. So all that stuff I had to adjust and try to get as close as I can through note bending and like I don't have the diaphragm to play fast anymore, so I use a lot more tongue blocking and tongue taps and stuff like that to simulate that.
Nice.
But it's like anything, you adjust and you go on.
Yeah, I've seen also some of those ones with the buttons on the side where when you hit them, you can hit the buttons for the flute. Yeah.
Harmonica, yeah.
Yep, those are cool. Well, heck yeah, man. I'll have to check you out someday, man. Have your daughters one of these days do a video of you hanging in with the blues band. I'd like to see that.
Well, the problem I have now is I'm in Milwaukee and my daughters are about 100 miles away.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately I'm pretty isolated out here. There's a few people I know well personally. Other than that, it's just all acquaintances and helpers. I'm trying very hard to get back home.
Right, for sure. Well, hopefully it all works out for you. We'll definitely keep up with you too. So once you're in the wheelchair Wednesday wheel, like you're always with us. So we'll be able to check back with you as well. What about traveling? What do you think about traveling?
I wish I could, but it's so hard for me to travel. One of the biggest problems I have is that I've lost my ability to regulate my body temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm basically a cold-blooded animal now. If it's cold,
lizard skin.
Yeah, well, it's even worse than that. That the colder it gets, I just start curling in to the fetal position. And being in the Midwest, there have been times when I've had to go out to get loaded up into the transportation, where by the time I get to the van, I can barely drive my wheelchair because I can barely move far enough to move the joystick.
Oh.
And I can barely, and I'm breathing like, because I have no diaphragm left because everything's just so tight.
Just shrunken in, trying to stay warm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then if it gets too hot, I don't sweat. If I'm sweating below the neck, it means I'm going into AD and something's up.
Yeah.
Because they can be 100 degrees out and 90% humidity, and I'm still not cracking a sweat. And I didn't realize that till I was rolling down the roll on about a 95-degree day and started feeling awful odd, And then I'm like, I know what this is. This is heat stroke. I better get in the air.
Right.
And went and got a cold drink, got my temperature down, and, became aware from that moment that I got to be prepared to jump in and get cooled off real quick.
Yeah, the temperature is a finicky thing when you have a spinal cord injury. You never know when AD is going to hit, and it's always right around the corner.
Well, with me, the only time I get AD is with bowel problems.
Okay.
So and I've only had it a few times, so that's knock on wood.
Well, some people also say too, like it's possible to ride the AD wave. So like, sometimes like if you're getting into AD, you'll learn how to manage it, so you don't necessarily, you know what I mean, like get on the bad side of it. Some people, as far as like, I'm not trying to get too much into the conversation, but sexually, some guys will say when they're getting into AD will pop up. You got to kind of learn to ride that wave, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That would be so frustrating to finally have that happen for you and then go into AD because of it.
I know, right? Oh, horrible. That would, I can't imagine. So before I go to the last question, I asked our last guest this earlier today, Bubba. with your wheelchair, do you have a name for it? You know how people name their cars,
Yeah,
the General
no,
Lee
no,
for the Dukes of Hazzard, stuff like that. Anything like that?
no name.
No name for it, huh?
But
What type of wheelchair do you got?
I have a um, it's a power chair, son of pivot. God, what's the name? Invocare. Um,
It's not Permobile, is it? Or
yeah, I think.
because
Yeah.
that's what I got. I got a Permobile. I mean, you got Permobile, you got Quickie, you got Harmony. What's up, all of our live viewers? Good to see you.
But yeah, I'm just waiting for a new one to get delivered now. It should be ordered now because it's just been 5 years.
What's the new
So
one you're
I'm
getting? Do you remember what the name of that one is?
I don't remember what the brand is. I think it's Mobile probably.
Permobile. Yep. They make the best.
And
I mean, I have a Permobile. I mean, they make really good machines.
and the one I have, like I said, I forget what this is. I thought it was a Invocare or something like that, but that might just be the cushion. Um, but the one I'm getting is going to have some more features that will make life easier for me.
Nice. Sounds good. Yeah.
It's like, this one has a footrest that raises, and it's got tilt. But the one I'm getting will also have the raise function, so I can get up to my cupboards
Yep.
and to my freezer. And it will also have a recline function. Because nowadays I pretty much just sleep in my chair.
Right. For sure. One of our live viewers said that, what about the name Harmony? She suggested the name Harmony. He said, nope, ain't doing that. We're going to name that damn thing Speedy Gonzalez or Lightning.
I'm on Medicare and Medicaid, so it's what they approve,
Right.
That's something I kind of wanted to touch on too.
LOL.
For one, people don't realize just how rare spinal cord injuries are. During any given time, there's between 250,000 and 300,000 people in the United States with a spinal cord injury. And that's not really a lot of people compared to a lot of the other disabilities and problems people have going on.
Right.
So we don't really get a lot of the support. But I mean, you have the Christopher Reeve Foundation, but that's about the only one anybody without a spinal cord injury has ever heard of. And you'd have to remind them a bit as far as an organization to help people.
Yeah.
And then also as far as you've got so many different classes of people. You've got people who are in automobile accidents and get a good insurance settlement. And so you don't hear about their needs because they're pretty much taken care of. You have work-related injuries, which is pretty much the same boat as the automobile injuries, they're pretty well taken care of. Military, the VA doesn't, I know you were in the military. And it seems
No,
like
I was not. I was not in the military.
Oh, no, that's someone else I had seen you talking to. And it sounds like they do a pretty good job of taking care of people. But then you get the people like me, something random happened in their own house, nobody to put the blame on. It just one of those people, or somebody gets shot by a stray bullet, something.
Yeah, I feel you there. It definitely should be kind of a uniform thing. I mean, for me, I kind of got lucky because of I live in Michigan and I had full coverage auto insurance and my accident happened in an auto accident. So that specific, incident covered me for what I have. But you're right. Some people, they just, you know what I mean? Hit their neck on a table or get shot by a stray bullet and all they have is like regular health care.
Yep. And it can be very difficult to get by too on just one thing. You find out you have a fixed income, but you don't have fixed expenses.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You living ain't fixed. I'll tell you that. One last question for you, and I think is one of the most important. As you being a viewer of the show, you probably know what's coming. What is the best piece of advice that you, sir, would give to a newly injured person?
Fight. No matter what people tell you, your injury, there's two things that determine the outcome of a spinal cord injury. One is the injury itself. No matter what amount of work, prayer, effort you put into it, your injury is a physical thing, and it's not going to allow you any more than your body's going to be able to get back. But there's nothing that tells you when that spot's going to be until you reach it. So you fight for that spot until you. I was in rehab for 9 months. I was in the hospital for 3 months. I was still gaining every day. So insurance approved me for a longer term in a nursing home. And so I went for an additional 6 months. And people are like, how did you keep getting so much inpatient therapy? Is it because I was improving? And when I got to the point where there was no more improvement, that's when they say, okay, this is your end point. You can't improve beyond this point. You know, and so that's the thing. Don't accept anything. Fight for everything you can, but realize that the only thing that's going to get it back for you is you fighting for it. You know,
For sure.
said I don't waste the time on the magical thought. If my injury is not going to allow it, my injury is not going to allow it. You know, but if my injury is not preventing it, then my injury is not preventing it either.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny looking back on my particular story and just thinking about my stay in the rehab. And I remember them trying to get me to do things, and it was just like some of the stuff I couldn't do. And I was just like trying to get they put you on the floor and they try to get you back up in your wheelchair. And I was smaller than I am now, and I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the strength. So I mean, that put me where I was, and they tried again, and I just couldn't do it. And it becomes emotional, you know. You get mad, you get angry, you throwing stuff, and like I don't want to do this anymore. Like I can't do it. Like what do you want me to do? You know what I mean?
Well, and, you know, what'll also mess with you is when it got to the point where, you know, they do their testing and see where you're at on everything, and it gets to the point where, okay, this is our goal. Okay, you've met that. And then all of a sudden you're sitting in rehab, and all of a sudden it's goal met. And it's like, oh, damn, I'm going to have to go home.
Right. Now you're like, well, no more ice cream at 7 o'clock at night and watching these fancy HBO movies. There was a point in rehab that I actually laid there, and I'm looking around at the nice lighting and the beautiful sky outside, and I'm like, this is really nice right now. Just kind of liking it, you know, like, man, once I go home, it's going to be different. Like, I better soak it in now. But it's like, not everybody gets to that rehab. Not everybody gets to, they just, like, some of the people could just have hospital and go home, and it's horrible for them.
Right. And I know. And I'm like, I can't understand how it's just so heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think that, you know, like Canada's got, what do they got? The free healthcare. But it's, I don't know how universal it is for people in our situation. But I think that everybody should have a shot at getting, you know, all the luxuries and stuff that everybody else gets.
Well, when I left the hospital, I mean, because the hospital had excellent rehab, and I was told I was going to go to a nursing home with a rehab facility. You know, of course, I thought, oh no, a nursing home, I'm not going to get any good there.
Right.
And it was a very small nursing home, very small rehab, only old people with hip replacements, you know, coming out of surgery and stuff like that. One PT, I think 2 PTAs, an OT and a couple of OTAs. But the PTA I was so remarked. He did such a great job. You know, people go to Craig Institute and all these places that are excellent world-class spinal cord injury facilities, but not everybody can go there. But without having the fancy equipment, Jolene got me to where after 6 months with her, I walked a quarter mile independently.
Wow.
Totally, no walker, just with her as a standby assist, walking next to me in case I needed her.
Right.
But then that first winter came, and I got cold, and I lost all that. And, you know, and every year I decline a little bit more coming out of winter. The last 2 winters, I've actually ended up in the hospital.
That cold's stealing your juice, man.
Well, you know, you were talking earlier about how important it is to stay hydrated with a spinal cord injury. Well, I've got low blood sodium.
Oh, great. That's another thing to tack on, huh?
it down near killed me a couple of years ago. So I've got fluid restrictions.
Oh man.
So try to maintain a healthy bowel and good nerves and restrict your liquids. So basically now I just drink Powerade and Gatorade,
All right.
make sure that everything I drink has sodium in it. But
Well, I gotta say, brother, you made it through this far. We appreciate you coming through and hanging out with us and sharing your story with us.
yeah, I had when I had my seating clinic for my chair, I had never seen any of those doctors or the PT before, and they were all commenting on with my level of injury, how good I'm doing and everything, and I'm like, we start talking about all the problems I have, and it's like, man, you would think I would just roll over and give up, but I'm like, there's too much life to be lived,
Yeah.
At 62. I realize I'm not going to live to be an old man, but I would like the time I have left to at least be quality, as much quality as I can get out of it.
Right. Well
I'm not just gonna lay down and die and give it up.
No. Nope, you can't. I think that's a lesson for everybody, man. You got to keep fighting. I like that. Keep fighting. Don't give up.
One foot in front of the other.
Yep. There you go. All right. Well, you know what? Stay with us, Matt. We'll be right with you in a second. To everybody else, if you want to be on a Wheelchair Wednesday, let me know. Find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever, and we'll get you on. To everybody else, thanks for watching. All our audio listeners, live viewers, everybody else out there, thank you. And we'll see you on the next Wheelchair Wednesday. See you.
Thank you for having me.